So, Cammy, I understand your imbecile sister will be coming to the next family reunion. If I recall correctly, both of you are high school dropouts. This will be an excellent opportunity to see just how horrendously stupid your family is. I never quite understood why my son decided to marry you. But perhaps after he sees the two of you dunces in the same place, he'll come to his senses.
Good evening, Miranda. To answer your question, yes, my sister is planning on attending. And yes, we did both drop out of high school. However, my sister is a good person. I don't think she'll cause any problems for you.
You don't have to tell me that you don't think, Cammy. I'm already aware of that. Sometimes I almost feel bad for the two of you. It must have been difficult growing up in a family that hardly even had 2 pennies to rub together. Even being a big of a failure as you are, I'll bet both you and your sister make more money than your parents did combined. Don't get me wrong, though. I'm not the least bit interested in hearing your sob stories about your impoverished childhood. So, if you must talk, I'd appreciate it if you could at least say something that more educated people than yourselves would find interesting.
Well, we didn't really struggle all that much. I don't have any sob stories to tell in the first place.
You don't need to lie to me, Cammy. Rather, I should say that there's no point. I already know exactly what you are.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, though, what is wrong with that sister of yours? You've been married for months now, and yet she hasn't come by to introduce herself? Really, that's exceptionally rude of her. In any case, we'll finally get the chance to meet her soon. Now, my husband may tease her a bit for various reasons, including the obvious one that she's an imbecile. However, I want you to keep in mind that anything he says to you is your fault. Don't shoot the messenger, as they say. You can't complain when he points out simple truths about you.
Right. Well, my sister is out of the country pretty often on business. I haven't even seen her in several months, which is something that I believe I've explained to you before. So I don't know why you think it's rude for her to not have met you yet when she's been literally physically incapable of meeting you up until now.
I told you, Cammy, your uneducated lies won't work on me. If your sister hasn't come to meet you since your wedding, it's most likely because she doesn't think your wedding is important enough. Either that, or the two of you have always hated each other and she never intended on seeing you in the first place. Bitter sibling rivalries are common in lower-class families. In any case, rude is rude. She should have made more of an effort to visit us. Goodness me, it's bad enough she's a high school dropout, but having no manners on top of that? Disgraceful! There are absolutely no redeeming factors to her at all.
It's interesting that you would say that, seeing as you haven't even met her yet.
Knowing you is enough. And you should know that you are a massive black spot on our otherwise noble family. Do not embarrass me when the family comes over. Do you understand me?
Yes, Miranda, I understand.
That was the funniest thing I've seen in ages! The way you screamed when my husband poured that cup of hot tea on your head, it was like something out of an old Saturday morning cartoon. I was right to invite you to come. The court jester is the perfect role for an idiot high school dropout like you.
I still can't believe what just happened. It would be one thing if it were an accident, but that was on purpose. I think he just gave me burns on my scalp and part of my face. It really hurts. I need to go find some ice or something.
I imagine it does hurt when you've been reminded of your place. You were such a rotten little upstart in there, bragging about your sister. So what if she's achieved a mediocre of success as a model? You're both still beneath us, and should have maintained a proper attitude. How could you be so delusional about yourselves? Congratulations, you're slightly taller than the average woman. Oh, and I suppose maybe your sister might be considered pretty by some men with lower standards. That doesn't change the fact that the two of you are nothing but a couple of idiots and completely useless to society.
Miranda, you can mock me all you want. I can deal with that. But I will not stand for you insulting my sister.
What's that? Would you like another cup of tea? Apparently the first wasn't enough to make you understand. It's precisely that baseless pride in your sister that made my husband feel the need to teach you a lesson in the first place. No matter what either of you do, you will never be on the same level as my family. Once you made the decision to become a dropout, you tactically consented to bearing that title for the rest of your life. Other than you two, every single person in that room graduated from college, and prestigious ones at that. You marrying my son was the worst humiliation I have ever suffered in my life.
I am waiting for the part where you justify doing what you did to me, Miranda.
Shut your mouth. I don't need to justify anything to the likes of you. Now hurry up and get back in here right away. You have work to do. Thanks to you, my husband needs a fresh cup of tea, and he wants it right away. You've got some burns on your face? Oh, you poor thing. Your arms and legs still work. I hope you realize how much your misbehavior has ruined the atmosphere of what was a delightful afternoon. You will come before my husband, get on your knees, and apologize for your behavior this instant.
And if I refuse?
Then you will no longer be welcomed in this family.
I've met some stuck-up elitist slimeballs in my life, but you bring the term to a whole new level.
What did you just say to me?
That's it. I can't take this anymore. It's time I put an end to this charade and tell you the truth about who I am.
What on earth are you going on about? I already know exactly what you are. A pathetic, miserable, idiotic, useless high school dropout. And for that little outburst, you will apologize to me once you're done apologizing to my husband.
We'll see who's apologizing to who when the day is done.
Cammy, I am so terribly sorry for what I've done. I was incredibly rude to you. Please, dear, can't you find it in your heart to forgive an old woman's foolishness?
I do not need, nor do I want, an apology from you. What you've done to me is not something that you can fix with just an apology. The world isn't that simple of a place. And I'm not that forgiving of a person. So don't bother debasing yourself by groveling at my feet. It's not going to do you any good. I cannot deal with you, your husband, my husband, or anyone in that bile-infested cesspool you call a family any longer. I'm going home now. Oh, and I know how excruciating it is for you to have a filthy little high school dropout like me for a daughter-in-law, so you know what? I think I'll spare you any more grief and divorce your son. I'm so sorry for all the trouble I've caused you, but don't worry, I'll be out of your hair soon enough.
No, Cammy, don't! I take back all the nasty things I've ever said about you.
Is this how stupid all you fancy university graduates are? Because God in heaven, you are dense. You can't just take it back. Did you think life is like a social media post that you could just delete it if it doesn't get the reaction you expected? Well, you're too late. The damage is done. Your husband's assault, and yes, it was an assault, has left me with burns on about a third of my face. I'm on my way to the hospital now so they can examine me. Once they do, I'm going straight to the police and filing a report against you. And right after that, I am going to have a talk with my lawyer about what my next steps are going to be.
What? Police? Lawyer? Come now, Cammy! Don't you think you're blowing this out of proportion? We're family, you know? This was just a minor little family scuffle, that's all. These things happen all the time. We don't need to go getting the police or courts involved.
You might think that way, but unfortunately for you, I am not a pathetic pushover. I will go to the police about what you did to me, and that's final. Oh, and another thing? I am also going to talk to my lawyer about drawing up a set of divorce papers so I can break up with your son as soon as possible. So, within a few weeks, we're not going to be a family anymore.
Wait! Cammy, please. I had no idea that you were a millionaire real estate investor. Not only that, but you own the housing development where this very house is built. I mean, the only thing I ever heard about your work from my son was that you hardly ever work at all. He said you mostly just sit around looking at your laptop all day, so I figured you were unemployed.
Good grief, Miranda, what year is it? I don't need to leave the house to make money. All I need is a laptop and an internet connection, and I'm good to go.
Ah, yes, I suppose you're right. Technology is incredible these days, isn't it? But if you don't mind me asking, how on earth did you learn the investment skills you would need to amass that kind of fortune? I mean, you are a high school dropout after all.
Oh, thank you so much for reminding me. You haven't mentioned that in the last 5 minutes, so I almost forgot about that. Seriously, I've never met anyone with such a bizarre prejudice against high school dropouts as you in my life. Do you think I dropped out because I was too dumb to graduate?
Is there any other reason to drop out from high school?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, I had a very good reason to drop out of high school. It was a complete waste of time. When I turned 16, I had an epiphany. I had spent more than 10 years in the educational system, but I was learning more in my free time looking things up myself than when I was at school. That's when I thought to myself, why am I sitting in this concrete prison for 8 hours a day when I could be learning more by myself? And so I did just that. I dropped out and started just studying whatever I wanted to. My sister did the same thing for a slightly different reason. She wanted to be a model and start her own fashion brand and dropped out a little bit before I did. Do you get it now? We dropped out of our own volition.
So, you're not an idiot? You're actually quite intelligent?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, though I'd like to think that just about anyone is capable of doing what I did. Once they free themselves from the constraints of this country's educational system, that's it. I learned more from self-study and real-world experience than I ever would have if I finished my last few years of public education.
When you say it like that, it makes a good deal of sense. But if that's the case, why would you hide all of that from us? You were lying to us about who you really were this whole time. Don't you feel guilty at all about lying to your family?
Please, Miranda, everything I do is calculated, and that includes not letting you know my true identity.
What do you mean?
Ever since I became successful, I could see the people around me changing. It turns out there are actually a lot of people like you who change their tone based on how much money a person has. I started getting complimented more than I ever had before. People who never paid attention to me before suddenly became very interested in what I do and how I do it. That was a wake-up call. If people know that I'm wealthy, then they're not going to show me who they really are when they're around me. So I decided that I would start hiding that fact about myself and then see how people act towards me. Then I can know what kind of person they really are. That is why I never told you about myself. I was still judging whether you were the type of people I could let my guard down around.
I see. But you chose my son as your husband, right? That's wonderful. And my son chose to take you as his wife, too, despite you being a high school dropout. That must mean the two of you are truly in love with each other. I'm so happy for the both of you. You have a long life full of happiness ahead of you.
Yeah, about that. I'm not really one to toot my own horn, but... well, my sister is a world-famous model, right? She's objectively one of the most beautiful and desired women in the world. And, well, I'm her sister. We look quite a bit alike. We're both pretty long-legged and in good shape. And while I can admit Alana has a prettier face than me, we still have our sibling resemblance. Which is all to say that I have never had any trouble finding men who were interested in me, even without them knowing I have money. Your son and I became friendly, and yes, I agreed to marry him. But he was still on probation.
Probation? You mean to tell me you didn't fully trust him even after you got married?
I've been burned in the past by men I thought I could trust. I understand why you wouldn't think very highly of that, but it's basically a survival instinct for me. When we first got married, he was treating me pretty well, and I thought that maybe he was a genuinely nice guy. That didn't last very long, however. I gave him an airtight cover story about a job that allowed me to work from home, but he didn't believe me. He thought all the work-from-home jobs were for intelligent people, which, me being a stupid high school dropout, I couldn't possibly be. So he stopped doing any chores at all and spent all this time going to bars and nightclubs. His words to me were, if you're just going to lay around the house doing nothing all day and contribute absolutely nothing to this family, then I'm going to do whatever the hell I want with my money. To be honest, I've been getting pretty fed up with him lately.
Well, I know that it may not be my place to comment on someone else's relationship, but don't you think there's a possibility that you were both contributing to the difficulties between you?
Sure, that's definitely possible. However, he won't even talk to me about our problems. He says talking about feelings is for girls. How are we supposed to repair our relationship if he won't even talk to me? This marriage is a lost cause, and I am putting an end to it.
You can't just decide that on your own. You're a couple. You need to talk to each other. Something as big as a divorce should be a joint decision, not you simply forcing your will onto him.
Did you not just see me say that he won't talk to me? And besides, his attitude isn't the only reason I'm divorcing him. The way your entire family has treated me is utterly reprehensible, and I won't deal with it any longer. And then the second you learned I'm rich, all of a sudden you start treating me better. What a coincidence, right? You all disgust me. I gave you a chance and you threw it away, so I'm leaving. Now get out of my house.
Your house?
Your son told you he bought that house, didn't he?
Oh no. You mean he didn't actually buy it?
Nope, it was me. He just told you it was him and let you live there without my permission. Now that we're divorced, I have no reason to put up with you anymore, so I want you out.
You can't do this to us. We love this house. It's our home.
It was your home. But as of tomorrow, I'm selling it to the highest bidder, so get your things cleared out by morning. I hope you enjoyed your time living rent-free at my expense, because those days are over. You're gonna have to take care of yourselves from now on.
Oh my god, Cammy, what is wrong with those people? Like, for real, what were you thinking marrying that guy? The whole family is the absolute worst.
You can say that again. I'm really sorry about yesterday, Alana. It was the first time you've been back in the country in forever, but it ended up being a total waste of time for you. But on a positive note, it's thanks to you that I now know exactly what sort of people they all are. I made my decision. I'm divorcing him and moving on with my life.
Oh, you're divorcing him? That's a huge relief. If you didn't say that, I was this close to having my security team go down and teach your husband some manners.
I would have paid money to see that happen.
It can still happen if you want, girl. Just say the word.
Nah, that's all right. He's going to get what's coming to him already.
If you say so, but the offer's on the table. By the way, sorry I couldn't go to the hospital with you. I had to go see somebody for work.
That's totally fine. My doctor said my burns shouldn't take too long to heal. He gave me some cream for it and said there shouldn't be any permanent scarring.
That's a relief. How would you get yourself a new man without that gorgeous face of yours? Okay, but for real, can we talk some more about how those people are literally the worst human beings on the planet? My charity just shut down a sweatshop in Asia that was run by nicer people than them. I mean, your father-in-law actually dumped a cup of hot tea on your head just because you're a high school dropout. And then your mother-in-law told you to go make him another cup? They're psychos, just straight up psychos, all of them.
It was great watching all their faces when you told them all about the businesses that you've started over the past few years. You could tell their brains were kicking into overdrive to find a reason to make fun of you in spite of your massive success.
And in the end, all that geezer would come up with was, well, I spent a solid week working on my doctoral thesis.
Right? As if that's even close to as impressive as anything you've accomplished in the last week.
I'm surprised you put up with that for as long as you did, though, Cammy. Didn't it hurt to have them mock you like that?
Honestly, I came close to feeling bad for them. Like in the back of my mind, I was just thinking about how their brains were going to explode once I told them who I really was.
Okay, and one more thing. I was also waiting to see what you were planning to do about your husband before I told you this, but that guy is an absolute scumbag. And I'm not just talking about the way he was laughing right along while your mother-in-law was mocking you. Remember when he showed me where the bathroom was? He tried to hit on me while I was in the bathroom. Like, he was standing outside the door trying to put the moves on me.
No way.
Yes way. I'm really sorry, Cammy. It has to hurt, but I thought you deserved to know the truth.
You know, nothing he does hurts me anymore. Because the truth is, I actually found out recently just what kind of a scumbag he is.
Really? You don't mean...
Yep, it's exactly what you think. At first I thought he was just your average, everyday, run-of-the-mill jerk. But it turns out he's actually a grade A certified sleaze bucket.
Cammy, are you really going to divorce my son? He just came by our new house to tell us about it. I wish you could see how badly he's hurting right now. Listen, I know the two of you have been through some difficulties, but won't you please reconsider what you're doing?
Unsurprisingly, it seems like your son didn't tell you the whole story. He betrayed me, Miranda. He's been cheating on me for just about as long as we've been married, and I have all the evidence I need to prove it. I'm moving forward with divorcing him. And I am going to sue him to recover the money that he spent out of our joint savings account on his mistress.
You're suing him? But you can't honestly think you're innocent in all of this.
Excuse me?
It's clear that my poor son wasn't satisfied with you. If he were, then he wouldn't have had any reason to go after other women. You must not have been trying hard enough to win his favor. Either that or not paying enough attention to his needs as a man. You can't sue him for something that you drove him to.
Wow, that is some super duper intellectual legal analysis by you, Miranda. Unfortunately, it happens to be 100% wrong, however. The law is on my side, and I will sue both him and your husband, and I will win.
What? You're suing my husband too? Wasn't it enough that you filed a police report against him? They're telling him he has to report to the station for questioning now.
I fully intend to take advantage of every remedy afforded to me by the law. You're going down.
Cammy, can't we talk about this?
No. No good will ever come from talking to you crazies. If you have any questions or complaints, feel free to address them to my lawyer. And with that, I bid you adieu.
That's it? You're just going to walk out of our lives like nothing ever happened? How could you be so heartless?
You want to talk about being heartless, Miranda? Heartless is betraying your wife and spending all your time with your mistress. Heartless is a mother justifying her son's wanton infidelity. Me? I'm not heartless. Most people with a functioning moral conscience would look at what you and your son did to me and be furiously apologizing. You, however, are going for a slightly different strategy. The old try and guilt the victim into not getting justice for herself strategy. It's a bold move, but sadly it's not going to pay off for you.
But Cammy, we lost our house because of you. Now you're suing my husband on top of that? I thought that if you would just relent on suing my son, we could rely on him to support us. But he'll never be able to afford to help us out when you're through with him. If anything, we'll be the ones who have to help him out. Someone's gotta help him mend the broken heart you left him with.
He's still got his mistress, right? She can pick up the pieces for you. But as of now, I no longer have any reason to care how sad he is. He could have chosen the path of being a decent husband to me, and the payoff to him and you would have been astronomical. But instead, you all chose the path of derision, mockery, betrayal, and violence. And now you're getting the punishment you deserve.
Isn't it punishment enough for us to lose our house? None of us thought this would happen, Cammy. We were totally caught off guard. You don't have to do anything for us ever again, but please don't abandon my son.
You're wasting your time, Miranda. The world isn't as convenient a place as you think it is. All of you have done terrible things to me that you can't take back. Seriously, you opened this conversation by trying to convince me that I was the one at fault for my husband cheating on me.
I apologize, Cammy, for everything. I apologize as many times as you want. So please forgive us.
Your son already tried to come crying to me, and you're not going to do any better than he did. I have no need for a cheating man and his evil family. My now ex-husband was crying his eyes out during the entire meeting with my lawyer. It didn't even faze me. Once our divorce was finalized, I immediately launched my lawsuits against all of them and kicked them out of my house. They tried to use squatters' rights to keep living there, but it wasn't going to work. When my husband's mistress found out they'd been caught, she immediately broke up with him and disappeared. So when they became homeless, loveless, and deep in debt, did the lovely family come together and support each other in their time of need? Of course not. They started blaming each other and had a big blowout fight, and all went their separate ways. And with that, the story of my brief yet eventful marriage comes to an end. It felt really good taking down a family full of scuzzy losers like them. So don't feel bad about me for having to deal with all that trouble. It's all behind me now. I'm just as optimistic as ever about the bright future ahead of me.